Hello everyone, how are you all doing? Welcome to this new video where we are building a full stack application using Spring Boot and React from scratch. And by the end, we'll be deploying this application onto a server. We'll be making use of AWS for the same. So we have come very far with this particular application. We have now React set up on our system. And now it's time that we get familiar with the fundamentals of React. So we'll be talking about things like components, properties, and states in this video. So do watch this video till the end. We are going to learn these concepts hands-on without the use of slides. All right. So this is going to actually help you understand how these things work when it comes to React. All right. And these things become the base of everything that you do in React. All right. So if you're new to this channel and if you're watching this video for the first time, I would highly encourage you all to watch the earlier videos. The link you'll find in the description for the entire playlist. So to get some context as to what is happening, what source code we are using, and what have we done so far, you should watch the earlier videos. And also, I would urge you all, for those who have not subscribed, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notification icon. That means a lot to me and it impacts my ability directly to bring in more such amazing free content for you all. So that's the best thing you can do to support creator like me. All right. So do like, subscribe, and also in the comments, let me know from where you are joining, what you do, what's your name. Just introduce yourself. I would like to know you more. So without a further ado, let's jump right in. So now we have the React app set up and we have been making use of an external terminal so far. So you have been making use of terminal that exists on your system, right? But with Visual Studio Code, you can go a little bit further wherein you have an inbuilt terminal over here, as you can see. So if you go to the top menu, you will have a terminal option. You can start a new terminal over here. Okay, you can see you have multiple terminals that you can create. So I can create n number of terminals I can add over here. Okay, and over here I can run the commands. So if you run pwd, which gives me the present working directory, you'll see that this terminal opens in the current directory where my project is as of now. So whatever I run over here will be executed in the root of the project. So you don't need to worry about that. Okay. So here I'm just going to run the same command npm start, using which we start our application. So the development server has started, and now I'll just move this to a separate window over here. Okay, so we have this application up and running. Okay, now let us talk a little bit more about our application. So I'll just minimize this over here. Okay, we don't need to see the terminal. The application is running now. All right, we don't need to worry about it. If you need to access terminal anytime, you can directly go over here and access the terminal over here. So you will find this terminal present over here. Okay, so yeah. So coming to our application, okay, I want to talk about the index.js. Okay, so here we have seen app.js. Okay, let me just zoom out a bit. Okay, app.js is one file which has the app component. Okay, we have index.js. So there are a few JavaScript files that we need to know about. Okay, now what is index.js? Index.js is the starting point of your application. It's like an entry point, you can say, for your React application. And this code we have not written, it's auto generated when we created the React project using the CRA tool. Okay, now there are a few things I want to explain. Here you're seeing a few import statements at the top. Okay, the first one is where we are importing the React library. Okay, now this particular library is important for creating and defining the React components. So that is what is happening at the first line. Second line, we are importing the React DOM. Now React DOM is a client API which is used for rendering the React components to the DOM. So DOM means document object model. Okay, so if you're doing web development, you often have to work with the document object model on a web page to render things. Here we are importing the CSS file. This is the index.css that you will find defined over here. Okay, this is pre-created. We did not create this. All right. Coming back to the file, you have app being imported. Okay, from .app. So this is coming in from here, app.js, you can see. So this is what is being imported, and whatever you are creating over here, whatever you're defining is being shown over here. Here you can see. Okay, so we are making use of app, right? And report web vital is a function that is used to measure and report on various web performance metrics. Okay, so this is something, it's a reporting thing. All right, and you can see over here it's calling this function. All right, but we'll be talking about this thing over here. Okay, here what is happening with this piece of code? So once the imports are done, we are actually rendering the app. So here we are like creating a root. Okay, so this is selecting the root DOM. Okay, so if you have used JavaScript, there is something called as document.getElement by ID, using which you can get the elements from the HTML page. Okay, so here if you go to index.html, so you'll find the index.html over here in public folder. Okay, so this is the template that you have. Okay, and here you have like a normal HTML template. So this is like HTML head, you have meta tags, you have everything like favicon, everything set up. But here you have this div within the body. So when the body tag starts, you have div over here, and this div has the ID of root. Okay, and you can see over here this comment here that is written. Okay, this HTML file is a template. If you open it directly in the browser, you will see an empty page. Okay, and what is happening is this root is being fetched in index.js over here. Okay, that is the root that is being fetched over here in index.js. And what we are doing is under this root, we are rendering our entire React application. That is what is happening over here. We are saying root.render, and we are making use of app component over here that we have imported. Okay, the component is being used for rendering. Okay, so I hope this is making sense. And this particular app, like I said, is coming in from app.js. So this entire thing that we have defined over here is being rendered then on the web page under the root. So if you go over here, like your application is running, if you say inspect, okay, you'll see this root, and under root you have everything. Okay, see, this is the root. So if you collapse the root, you don't have anything outside the root. Under the root, you have like the app, and under app you have header, the p tag, whatever you have defined in the app.js. So that is how your app is being rendered. This is important that you understand if you're working with React for the first time. All right. So the rendering is done. Now let us understand the components part. Okay. So here you have the app component. We are making use of app component in the index.js over here. Okay. Now within app, okay, you have something called as header over here. Okay. So I'm going to like get rid of this default code. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I will take this header and I'll remove this entirely. Okay. Now what we can do is we can have our own components created, like I've said, and let us begin creating the components. So what I can do is I can say h1 over here, or React app. Okay. Something like this. So okay. I have this, and if you come over here, I have our React app as a message over here. Okay, so it instantly reloads if I save the file. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm making use of this HTML tag over here. This is normal HTML tag. Now let us say I want to print a greeting. All right, so one way is what I can do is I can like say over here h2, something like this, and I can say hello React. Okay, if I save this, okay, you'll see hello React coming in over here. Now let's say if I want to print this greeting multiple times, okay, you have to write it 3 times, right? Now what if I extract this into a component, right? I'm reusing this, right, at multiple places. So what I can do is I can like create a new file over here. Okay, I can call this as greeting.js, something like this. All right. And over here, what I can do is, let me copy this code over here. Okay. And I can like have a function. Okay. So I can have a function like this. Okay. And I can say greeting. We don't need parameters right now. And I can paste this code. Okay. So this is what we want the component to be. And I can return this p over here. Something like this. All right. And what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to say export default greeting. So we need to export this as well so that this is available for import. And I'm going to come into app.js here. All right. And what I'm going to do is here, let's make use of this component, right? So I'm going to come over here first, or let's try making use of it directly. Okay. So I'm going to remove this h2 tag. I'm going to say greeting like so. So you can see the moment I used greeting, it was automatically imported at the top. Okay. I don't need to import logo because it's not being used. But greeting is imported. You can write this manually or you can get it auto imported like I did. Okay. And I'll close this. So we are making use of this component that we have just defined like any other HTML tag. This is our custom HTML tag, you can say, right? Isn't this amazing? I'll save this and you can see the output has not changed. All right. Even if you take a look at the HTML, okay, take a look at the HTML. It's the same HTML as if I have defined h2 3 times. But actually I have not defined h2 3 times. I have defined h2 2 times and then I'm making use of greeting component. Well, this is our component now. And the question is, I'm making use of this component once. Can I make use of this component multiple times? Yes, of course you can. Why not? So if you want to make use of this component multiple times, you can. You can save this. Come over here. You can see the app is reloaded and the things are looking normal, right? Just like you have like added h2 tag 3 times. Okay. Now, if you want to make any change in the message or anything, you have to just make it at one place and it's reflected everywhere. So that's the power. So if I make a change over here, hello React, and if I add exclamation, let's say, if I come over here, you can see exclamation added everywhere. But if it was other way around, like if you were not making use of components, you have to make this change at 3 different places, right? Now, this is about component. Okay, this is how you can create your own component, and this is the first component that you have created. Now, things get even more interesting with dynamic things. Like you can pass dynamic parameters into components, which can help those components behave differently based on what you're passing. Let me show that to you. Okay, so here, if you write an HTML tag, you can like define a property, something like this, right? You can pass in a property. So with React, you can do something like this as well. Okay, so here I can come in. Now here I can say name. Okay, let us call it name. You can call it anything. Okay, and let me say John over here. Okay, name is John. Okay, let me comment these for a while right now. Okay, so this is the comment. Okay, so we have only one component. I'm passing in John, and here what I need to do is I am going to make use of this kind of a syntax. Okay, I'm going to say name, something like this. Okay, this is known as destructuring. And here, instead of hello React, I'm going to have name, something like this. Okay, so why name is surrounded in curly braces? Because it's a variable. Okay, it has a dynamic content. If I save this and if I come back over here, you can see hello John, right? Hello John is being printed, and John is something that you passed in from this particular file over here. Isn't this interesting? So you're passing parameters, and this is known as properties. Okay, it is also known as props. So when you're working with React, okay, you will hear this term prop, which is nothing but properties. So this is an example of a property. So what you can do is here, I'm going to uncomment this. Okay, you can copy this. So instead of John here, I can pass in, let's say, Alice, for example. Then here I can pass in anything I like. I can say like Bob. Let's do this. If you come over here, you can see hello John, Alice, and Bob. Okay, so you have the same component behave differently depending on what you are passing in as the parameter. And what have you used over here? You have used the concept of properties. So this is known as properties when it comes to React. Now, so far we are working with a single parameter or a single property. Can you have multiple properties? Yes, of course you can. So let us say I want to pass in message as well along with the name when we make use of greetings. Okay, so I can say message over here. Okay, and here I can say welcome. Okay, and I can copy the same thing here. I can paste it over here. I can pass in welcome with an exclamation. Okay, this is a different message, and here I can say hello, something like this. Okay, and we can go over here in greeting, and here we can add one more parameter like so, and here we can make use of it. So here, since I'm returning this, okay, so what I can do is, now let's say I want to return p tag as well along with h2. Okay, so I can say p like this, and I need to say message, something like this. Okay, now we are getting an error. Okay, so it is saying JSX expression must have one parent. Okay, so here's one more learning now. All right, we are returning these two tags. Okay, and these are being returned as JSX, right? So JSX means JavaScript XML, but the thing over here is you cannot have two tags being returned. You need to have one tag only. Okay, and if you are having a situation where you have a multiple tags being used, something like this, so what you need to do is you need to add in a parent tag. So I can say div over here. Okay, and I need to wrap this into a parent tag, something like this over here. Okay, and I need to add this into round brackets like this. Okay, all right, so you can see the error is now gone. Okay, so what we are doing is we have wrapped these two elements because we added one more p tag. Okay, and we are returning this wrapped in div now, and we've just made it a little bit pretty. Okay, but we were getting an error. And what is the error that we were getting? So it was talking about JSX. Okay, like you cannot return two elements, you need to have one parent. Okay, one element only. So that is something that you need to keep in mind. Okay, and if you come over here now, you can see hello John, welcome, hello Alice. Okay, I've zoomed in a bit. Okay, but you should see something like this. Hello John, welcome, hello Alice, welcome, hello Bob, welcome. And you can see this is without exclamation, this is with exclamation, and this is just hello. Okay, so indeed this is working. Okay, also if you see over here, you see the div tag, but this is something different. So this div tag is like we use in HTML, right? If you're familiar with HTML, you will know this, but this is not like HTML, right? If you make use of div tag in HTML, you make use of something called as class, right? You make use of something like this, class, right? This is HTML. But here we are making use of class name. Okay, what is class name? That sounds a little bit new, right? If you're not familiar with React. So here, when working with React, you make use of class name instead of class over here. Okay, and this is to specify the classes of an element. Okay, that is the syntax. And this is because React makes use of JSX. Okay, so it's a slightly different syntax than that of JavaScript, and JSX is nothing but an extension of JavaScript. Okay, and if you make use of class name, it gets compiled to class like we make use in HTML. So if you come over here, even though you have made use of class name, you can see class over here. Okay, so it's being compiled to class during runtime. You can see we are saying class name here, but it is coming in as class after it's rendered. Okay, so now with this particular application, what I want to do is, let us say we have this message. Okay, this message is some data about this particular component. Okay, also name is a data about this particular component. So normally, whenever you want to store any kind of data about a particular component, you make use of something called as states. Okay. Now, if you have heard of React before, or if you have read about it, you must have heard of this term called hooks. So what are React hooks? So React hooks were introduced in some of the latest versions of React, and they allow you to use things like state, lifecycle methods and all when you're working with functional components. So this particular component that we have defined is a functional component. Okay. Now what is a functional component? Functional component is simply a component that is created using a function. Okay. We are not making use of class over here. If you make use of class and if you create a component, which you can, you are creating class based components. But normally today everybody writes functional components only. Okay. So we have created a functional component and you can make use of hooks to get access to state. Okay. And with state, you can store some data about your component that you have. All right. So what we need to do is, what we are going to do over here is we are going to go at the top. Okay. I'm going to say import and I'm going to say use, and you can see over here we have use context, use effect. Okay. There will be something called as use state. So we have imported use state over here. Okay. Now let us say we want to have message as a state of our creating, okay, of this particular component. Okay. So what I can do is I can create a state over here. I can say const like so. I can say message. So take a look at the syntax. You have message and then you also specify the function name. Okay. And then over here, you make use of something called as use state. Now what is use state? So if you see this, use state is used to initialize or give any initial state value. Okay. So I can say use state, and what is the initial value that I want to have? I want to have it message. Okay. And then you can add a semicolon. So what you're doing is you are creating a state called message over here. Set message is a function. And why are we defining this function right now? Because this is a function that will update this particular state. Okay. In some time you'll see the magic of this function and state, people. Okay. And how it saves your life or saves a lot of time. Okay. So here we have created this state. Okay. And it also has an initial value. All right. Now what we are doing is we are already making use of this state. Okay. Now let's say I want to change this state based on certain event. Okay. And let us say, for example, I have an event. Let's say I have a button. Okay. And let's say on click of this button. Okay. On click of this button, what I'm going to do is I am going to have, okay, something like this. And I need to update the state over here. How do I update? We have a function, right, called set message. So I can say over here, goodbye, for example. You can add anything, okay, whatever message you want to add. And here we will add the button text. So I'll say change message can be the button text. Okay. I hope this is making sense. Let me save this file. Let me come over here. Okay. So we got an error. So the error message says identifier message has already been declared. Okay. So there is this problem where what we have done is we have like the prop, this parameter, and the state name as same. So we are getting this error. What we can do is we can call this message state, and I can make use of message state over here. Okay. So after you rename this to message state, okay, and if you do a hard refresh, you should see this being changed to goodbye. Okay. So you have welcome initially, and if you click on change message, you can see this is being changed to goodbye. All right. And how is this happening? So what we are doing over here is, so let me indent this a bit. Okay. You can see now we have div h2 state being used, and then we have a button click based on which we are changing the value of the state. So isn't this amazing? This function is tied to this particular state variable, and whatever change or whatever message you're passing in is being immediately reflected over there. And there was minimal lag, minimum refresh over there, as you can see. Okay, and the change was instant. I can even like move this particular thing here, okay, that we have this entire thing. So let me like cut this, okay, and here I'll come, okay, and I'll paste it over here, and I'll create a function. So I'll say constant change message, okay, and this is a function that I'm creating. What it's doing is it's simply calling set message. Okay, you can see it's simply calling set message. Okay, and here what I'm going to do is on click, I'm just going to call change message, and I'm going to save it. Okay, now let me hit refresh. You see welcome. If you click, you will see goodbye. You'll see goodbye. This is happening across now, you can see. Okay, so this is how states work. So state is nothing but some data that you wish to store for a particular component. So this is how you create state. Okay, and you're making use of useState hook. This is known as hook that you have to import from React. Okay, and this is the syntax to define states. So you're defining state, and you have a callback function which is being created along with it. Okay, and you have this useState used over here to initialize the initial value. Okay, so normally when you're creating components, you won't create it in the src folder. Okay, you would normally have a folder created. You will call this folder as components. Okay, and you would move the greetings inside components. Okay, and it's asking you to update the imports. You'll say yes. Okay, so whatever imports are there, you can see this import statement has been updated. Okay, I'll save this, and I'll save this as well. Okay, and our application is working as normal, you can see. All right, so this is how you can create components, work with states. I hope this has given you some good overview of the basics of React and how things worked when you are working with React. Okay, so these are some foundational concepts that will help you build like an application that would have React as the interface. Okay, so these were some of the foundational concepts. I would encourage you to create more components, try using those components, see how things work, create more states, try using them and see how things work. Okay, experimenting is really important when you are learning programming.